So I was asked to do a collaboration with the fabulous Jade, and so they were her nails that you just saw on the picture that just came up, and these are the nails that I wanted to recreate because we basically just said that we would choose a design from each other's sets, and she would copy one and I would copy one, and so that was what I chose. So I'm doing it on the red iguana hand, and I've just applied my forms there. We'll discuss how to apply the forms a little bit more in depth on the next one that we apply, but I basically take it off the roll, I rip it off, I roll it between my thumbs to give it a nice curve, and I just place it onto the nail like that, and I'm holding it on because the hand is silicone and it can slip. So I'm taking a bead of crystal glass, I place it just where the form and the free edge of the client's nail kind of end, and I'll start sculpting using her sidewalls as my guide from the side, and then taking it down to the length that I want in like a pat drag motion. So I'll place the bead, blend it nicely onto the nail plate, and then I'll pat and drag from side to side to pull the bead down into position where I want it. So I'm picking up a bead of Birthday Suit. It's a real sexy nude, and I'm just blending that down towards the free edge, making sure I'm leaving some bulk there at the back end, and then I'm going to just build up the apex and then come in with some glitters. So the reason I'm doing this all in one go is because I don't want to let the form slip off while the acrylic is not set. Obviously, because it's on a silicone hand, it's colder and takes longer to set. So I find if I do it this way, I can do the nail, get the design on, and then continue on to another nail. So I've picked up a tiny little bead, which I showed you there on film, placed it into my raw glitter. All the glitters that I'm using are from Tracy Lou. They're like, I don't know if they're from like a certain collection, but they're all like neon-y. They're gorgeous. And I'm just placing that onto that nail and just nudging it with the tip of my brush around, just filling out the tip of the nail. So I'm using the Queenie from CJP brush to do this set as well. Just find it's a nice big brush for some nice long nails. So again, I'm just placing that nail form underneath the free edge, and I'm going to hold it in place, and I'm going to dip my brush into my clear acrylic. I place it onto the nail, use the tip of my brush to blend it onto the nail plate, and then now I use a drag, so pat, pat, pat over to one side, use her sidewall as my guideline, and then I pat, pat, drag over to the other side, and I continue doing this until I get the desired shape and length. So if my brush gets dry, I will just dip it back into the monomer just to make it nice and wet. You don't ever want to go in dry. It don't work. So I'm laying the nude down, using the tip of my brush to tuck it nice and neatly into that cuticle, so the angle of my brush goes upwards, the bristles tuck it right in there, and then I drag inwards from the side walls to blend it away from any skin and make sure the bulk is going into the center, and feather that down nicely. And then I'm going to come in with another glitter. So this next glitter that I'm going to use is, I think it's called apple something apple. It's the green one. I'm so crap at remembering names. I'm using that tiny, small, wet bead of acrylic to place that on and just manipulate and nudge that into place. And then just using a little bit more there just to kind of manipulate and get it opaque in the places that I want it to. Sometimes it is a chunkier glitter, so you do have to like play with it a little bit more, just nudge it around a little bit more, but it is also multi-cut, so it gets great coverage really, really easily. So again, just flattening that down with the body of my brush, and then I'm going to move on to the next nail. So on this nail, I didn't record the whole nail being done just because I'm going to do a full view on the middle finger with where I pick up the bead as well. So you can see my dip to powder ratio and all that. So I've just done the exact same process on this nail, and then I'm using Pink Passion just to use a lovely, this is a gorgeous pinky purpley tone. I absolutely love it, stunning. So I'm going to do exactly the same. And then I'm going to discuss properly in detail about the next stage. So I've applied the form. I dip once into my powder and I wipe both sides just because this brush is huge. I place my bead in the powder for about 3 seconds and then I drain the back of the bead on the tissue. Where you wipe your tissue, don't rest your arm. Like, I know it looks like my hand is on there, but it's on actually a towel. My hand or wrist does not go ever in the monomer or the tissue that I've wiped my monomer on. Place the bead on and then you're going to pat, pat, pat to the side, drag, pat, pat to the other side and drag down to your desired length. Use the sidewalls of your client as your guide, so your brush can be your guide from your sidewall to their sidewall with the acrylic to make sure that it is not flaring out or going in. And then I'm going to pick up a bead of birthday suit. So I'm dipping the powder, wipe one side of my brush in the powder for about 3 seconds, drain the back of the bead, place it on at the cuticle area, wipe my brush, and then I gently tuck it into the cuticle area. Swipe it down the sides to stop it going into the sidewalls. But I'm not dragging the whole of that bead down because I want the apex to be built up in the back third there. So I will just kind of feather out the bead but leave the bulk at the back. So I'm using this Oozy Orange. Stunning. Look at the skills opening that pot with one hand. The skills of a nail tech. So dip my brush in fully. Wipe it off, tiny small wet bead into the raw glitter, moving my pot of clear out of the way because that would just be my look to drop it all in there, and then just gently nudge. And I'm not wiping my brush this time, I'm using that monomer in my brush to keep that bead going, to make it nice and flat, to keep it nice and wet, to stop it setting and creating any sort of bulk. We don't want any bulk with our glitters because that's where we end up filing it off when we come to file. And then I just dipped a bit of my wet brush into the raw acrylic and placed it onto that still wet bead. And I'm just carrying on, nudging it around and patting it into place. So now I'm just going to cap. So I place a large bead of clear acrylic right at the back there. Use the tip of my brush to tuck it in again, bring it down the sides and then walk that bead down. So I'll just stroke it out so I don't get any air bubbles, and then I'll just start to pat, pat, pat from one side and pat, pat, pat over to this side. So as I'm patting, I'm dragging my brush so that I'm also pulling that bead down. And we'll go in and apply another bead just at that apex area because these are quite long nails and you do want that balanced and to be able to grow out nice and strong. So I'm placing another quite big bead in the back third, tucking it into the cuticle, swiping down the side, but as you can see I kind of avoid the bulk and then just feather the front of that bead down, and that just gives me a nice apex so that the nails can grow super strong. So I'm showing you how I pick up a big bead. So I dip fully, submerging my monomer, get all of the air bubbles out, place it with so as I place it in the powder, I do put a bit of pressure on the brush as well. My brush is at an angle, so more contact of the bristles is in the powder, so it picks up a larger bead. And then I just place it on the nail and start walking it down as I would any other time. I think I add one more bead in that back third there. Yep, just a tiny little bit just to make it a little bit more strong. And then that's the acrylic applied, and we're going to go on to filing. So I'm just going to show you me filing one nail. So I come up the side completely at an angle to clean up underneath, and then I completely straighten my file so that my edges are going to be nice and straight. So I clean up and then I straighten up. Clean up, straighten up, do my free edge, and then I start contouring over the left side into the center, down the cuticle area, around the cuticle area, and then I blend it back over from the right side to the center to make a nice even nail. And then once it starts looking good from my view, I'll just get my client to pop her hand around and I'll just refine it again from her view to make sure that all the sides are straight, the tip is straight, and we've got no knobbly bits or wonky bits of acrylic. So Jay's used some stunning, I think they were like, I don't even know what crystals they were on hers, but they were so sparkly, but I didn't have any in those colours. So I'm just using these neon ones from the Neon collection from Angel Crystals. I use my wax pencil and some glue to stick them on, and then I'll top coat all of the nails, cure it in the lamp for 60 seconds, and then that's the finished design. I want to say a big thank you to Jade for reaching out to me to do this collaboration. I found it super fun, even if it did take me forever to do the video and upload it. I am such a shit human. Thank you so much, Jade. Your nails were beautiful. And thank you to all of you lot who have watched, liked, commented. I love you all so much, and I really feel the love lately, and I am trying my best to do more detailed videos, in-depth videos. I still do have a couple of reviews to come up, and I am buying things for a little haul video, so keep your eyes peeled for them. I love you all so much. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all again in my next video. Bye.